And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast presented by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, make sure you are getting down to the Holy Grail and getting yourself some grub, enjoying some cold drinks, and just having an all-around wonderful time down at the Banks and the Dora area. And there you go. Make sure you are supporting the folks that support us as you head down to the Holy Grail. All right, Dave, I did want to say I haven't had a time to get an article up. I'll wait until we get some more in here to tell people what's going on that front.
You did put an article up.
No, I mean for the sale.
Oh.
We do have another sale going. I just haven't had time to advertise.
Oh, we do? It's still going?
No, the old one is not. No, we have a new one.
We have a new one for the stragglers?
This one is 50% off for the stragglers.
Well, we got to make some money.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Giving all this content out for free, don't pay no bills.
So if you haven't taken advantage yet, you can take advantage and get a year of Bearcat Journal for 50% off. All right, let me get this up on Twitter here real quick. What? Like Hot Board the 3.0, we are live. Get in here. There we go. All right, Dave, let's get to it. Hotboard 3.0 is live. If you would like to know what's happening on Hotboard 3.0, I would suggest you head straight to BearcatJournal.com. You can leave a screen up with this podcast on, and you can listen, and then you can take a look at Hotboard version 3.0. No new names. Okay,
I hate it. Give me
it.
I want a new Hotboard, Dad.
It stinks, and I hate it. I always love that. Like every time I put a hot board out through this, somebody in the first page is like, "When's the next one? When do we get to the next one?" I don't like this one.
I'm appalled.
Let's touch on let's touch on something that I think is important to touch on here. With version 3.0 out, a lot of people seem to be unhappy, Dave, but I think you have posed a pretty outstanding question.
What's the question?
Who else would you have on it? Like to the people like complaining. What? This isn't a name with this isn't a coaching carousel with like 8 hot names on it. Who's missing?
UCF superfan, literally anyone. Okay, Tommy Tuberville, Butch Jones, Randy Etzel, Brian Harsin, Dan Mullen, Ron Turner, Ron Zook. You're saying literally anyone. Literally anyone.
Can't count Dion out as much as Chad really wants to. Look, do you think if I thought there was a chance,
he was never
if
in.
If I thought there was a chance that this was happening and Dion was coming, I would be like screaming from the rooftops. Have you guys haven't figured me out by now? I'm the easiest person to figure out on the planet. Am I not, Dave?
Yes, whatever's best for us.
Dion would make me so much money. We might be up to like the Alabama, North Carolina, Ohio State levels of membership by the end of the Deion Sanders tenure. Are you kidding? Of course I want Dion. If there was any chance it was Dion, he would be number 1 on my list. His face would be plastered all over the message board. Like, come on, guys. Come on. No Mac from Greg Vito.
Okay, then who else?
Who else?
Like the whole like this is bad, this is awful thing falls on deaf ears to me if you don't provide me with realistic other alternatives.
Right.
So, like the net, like, okay, so if let's just pull back a little bit. If head coaching experiences is a key element to this, and let's say you went after Matt Campbell, and he has been reluctant to move numerous times for whatever reason. So if he's still reluctant to move, then okay, then he's off your list. So earlier in the process, I said maybe, Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. He seems reluctant to move, or possibly could be a name for Stanford. I think he fits a little, understanding the academic issue, restrictions they have, understanding that they're not going to take kids in the portal, they're not going to do NIL. So, but he has been very comfortable at Wake Forest. It's a great job. Like,
right.
You have to understand, like, quality of life is becoming more and more valuable to these coaches. They all make a hell of a lot of money. And if you are somewhere where you can enjoy doing what you do, and you don't have to worry about crazy boosters, or you don't have to worry about, winning 10 games every year. Like, you can have a very enjoyable, very successful life being the head coach at Wake Forest or being the head coach at Iowa State.
Right.
And you just don't see the Power 5 head coach move to other Power 5 jobs anymore. We saw it twice last year with blue blood, cream of the crop jobs in LSU and USC. And even Lincoln Riley going to USC was a stunner. Like, nobody had that. Like, I'm pretty sure the USC hot board didn't have Lincoln Riley on it.
Right.
So, and then you had Mario Cristobal going from Oregon to Miami. That was mainly a come home situation, and his mom was ill and eventually passed away, unfortunately. But like, this isn't the late 90s, early 2000s when it was like coaching roulette in the SEC, where guys are leaving Ole Miss for Auburn and then leaving Auburn for Arkansas, and like, it doesn't happen anymore. Sitting Power 5 coaches do not leave for other Power 5 jobs. I mean, look at all the jobs.
Unless they're getting ahead of the fire train,
or they're getting insane contracts, like
right.
Mel Tucker leaving Colorado for Michigan State. Like, if you're a Power 5 job and you are hiring, you are pulling from two places: G5 head coach or Power 5 assistant coach. That's it. Like, Florida State hired Memphis's coach. Virginia Tech hired Memphis's coach. He failed. Like, they're not. There's too many to even name or to remember. Like, it just doesn't happen anymore.
Dave, I want to do an exercise with you. Okay.
Yes.
I want everybody. We got 100 people in here. I want you all to pay very close attention to this exercise. Very close attention to this exercise. Okay, you ready, Dave?
Yes.
Brent Venables, where'd he come from?
Who's defensive coordinator at Clemson?
Matt Campbell, where'd he come from?
He was the head coach at Toledo.
Dave Aranda, where'd he come from?
He was the assistant. He was defensive coordinator at LSU.
Chris Kleiman, where'd he come from?
FCS.
Sonny Dykes, where'd he come from?
SMU.
Joey McGuire, where'd he come from? High
He was
school.
an assistant at Baylor.
Okay. Lance Leopold, where'd he come from?
Buffalo via FCS.
Steve Sarkisian, I mean, we know.
He came from the Nick Saban coaching rehab facility.
Yeah. Neil Brown, where'd he come from?
Western Kentucky, I believe.
Yeah. Those are the sitting head coaches in the Big 12. How many of them were sitting Power 5 head coaches when they were hired to be a head coach in the Big 12?
I don't believe any.
How many were either an offensive or defensive coordinator and or at a coach at a commiserate level to the MAC? All of them?
Yes.
All of
I
them?
mean, if you're not in the American, it's basically all the same thing. Like the leagues have ebbed and flowed, and some have more money than others, but like everybody below the American is basically the same from a budgetary standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. Reed Culver says, P5 coordinator of a blue blood over a mediocre G5. Okay, what if they were the P5 coordinator at a Power 5 school and now they're a mediocre group of 5? Like that, like Sean Lewis was the offensive coordinator for a very good Syracuse offense, right? Like, didn't they 2017 to 19, they had the like right up there with the best offenses in the ACC.
His offense is he's from the Art Briles, Dino Babers tree,
Right?
Air Rady, whatever that is now. Like it's a high octane-ish, whatever, year to year, who knows. They're trying to spread the field, throw the ball around, score a bunch of points.
Run 90 plays. Yeah. So he was a Power 5 coordinator. I guess you're going to, the blue blood is the caveat. Okay.
Yes, I don't disagree with that. Like, I was all about Brian Hartline. I'm all about Alex Golish. But this isn't about what I want. This is about telling people what we think the university is looking for and why that might be the case. I don't care. Like, I legitimately don't care. I like some coaches more than others, but it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not going to get mad. Like, I'm not trying to like pick on anybody. I mean, I'm just trying to answer questions or whatever, but like the idea, like Tom Herman going to FAU tells me what people think of Tom Herman.
Right.
Like, if Tom Herman was a great option, he would have been an option at Auburn. He had a conversation with Arizona State and Colorado. He's not in a candidate to be them. So you're telling me that he turned Arizona State and Colorado down so he could go be the coach at FAU? I would imagine it was the opposite. I would imagine they talked to him and said we'd rather, explore other opportunities.
Right.
I see Todd Munkin's name. He's a 50-something, 60-something-year-old guy that's basically carved out an entire career in the NFL and is now at Georgia. What part of him matches up with anything that we're trying to do? Whether it's Big 12 experience, recruit Ohio, young, energy. Like, there's nothing that he has that he's a great offensive coordinator for Georgia, but to be the coach at UC, I don't see any correlation to anything that he's done.
Concur.
Josh Gaddis, okay. Are we saying Michigan Josh Gaddis or Miami, Florida Josh Gaddis? Because their offense this year was tire fire garbage. Like, you can't just I don't think you can just throw names out and be like, yeah, that guy. Well, yeah, sure, that guy. But how does it fit to what UC is trying to do as a whole? Like, how does it fit?
100% shocked nothing came of Garrett Riley. I think inexperience is the issue there, right?
Has Garrett Riley's name come up for any job? He's not getting Texas State. That went to J.G. Kinney. So, if there's nothing being sniffed around Garrett Riley for any of these open G5 jobs, then why would he be someone for us to talk to? Again, what is his ties to? So he's coached at SMU and now at TCU for a year. Everybody wants someone that has recruiting ties to Ohio. Got to recruit the Cincinnati area. Well, what the hell does Garrett Riley do for that?
Can I confirm that I sat in Fickle's office and made phone calls regarding his replacement today? I sat in a principal's office for a little while today. That wasn't fun. Had to deal with some of that. And then dealt with Kelly had a 9-inch nail drilled into her tailbone today to extract bone marrow. So outside of making phone calls, those are the things I dealt with today. I haven't had a rough week.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. This is just, I look this bad all the time.
That's right.
Cameron. This is just how bad I normally look. Have I slept much? No. Look. Thank you, Nicholas, for the $2.
Welcome, Jeremy.
Welcome, Jeremy, the new member. Great to have you. Much appreciated. Thanks for being part of the team. And if you haven't heard, 50% off Bearcat Journal right now, a full year. Any truth to Alex Golich being offered? Don't you think we would be talking about that, Jordan?
Nobody's been offered because we're pretty sure no one's had like a real sit-down face-to-face adult, like more than a Zoom interview. So no one would have been offered.
The Zoom interviews went through yesterday, as far as I know. To my knowledge, today was about narrowing down the list, deciding on, and maybe they worked in an interview later in the day. I don't know that. Has not been told to me. And then you go through interviews, be done with interviews by Saturday, make a decision, hire a coach. That is the timeline that I put on BCJ on Monday. It is played out, Dave. Has it not played out exactly so far as I said it would?
Yes.
How do I know that? Because that was the timeline that John Cunningham gave to the parents of the current team on Monday night. Sunday night, Monday night, Sunday night. Whatever. You get the point.
I want to ask you a question because I thought about this today. I'm just saying. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick. How do you not have a list narrowed already? Guys, they've done Zoom interviews for 2 days, okay? When you get done doing all of your interviews, you have all these people you want to talk to, you do the interviews, and then you reconvene with your team, and you make decisions. That's narrowing the list. They had a big list. They narrowed it to a medium-sized list. They did Zoom interviews with the medium-sized list, and then you narrow it down to a small list. And then you make a decision.
Eric, you can give Urban Meyer $9 million.
How are Lewis's connections to Ohio high school coaches? I mean, he's been at Kent State, so he's going to have some ties there. He's originally from Chicago, so at least from the region, and played at Wisconsin. So he's a Midwest guy through and through. So that would lend to he has.
Yeah, I mean, every one of these candidates that and granted, I still very much think that there could be the quote unquote mystery candidate, like maybe not someone that none of us have talked about at all, but like you mentioned in the 3.0, like a Jim Leonard.
Yeah.
Like, could he be a candidate? Sure, I could see him being a candidate, and we really haven't talked about it much, and we don't have we haven't been able to get a bunch of info saying whether he is or isn't. But like, I find it hard to believe that we're nailing every single one of these. Like, I'm sure
there's got to be something I'm missing. They're like, look, they actively try to keep info away from us. They want this to be done in-house. They want it to be quiet. That is John Cunningham's process. Like, it took me until Hotboard 4.0, and I've explained why, but it took me until Hotboard 4.0 to put Wes Miller on there. Because they did a great job keeping us guessing. That's their job. It's literally in their job to keep information away from us.
So I want to ask you a question.
Jim Huber said the parent meeting was Monday. Thank you, Jim. I don't know what day it is, Jim. I have no idea.
Playing devil's advocate a little bit here.
Okay.
So Sean Lewis obviously seems to be getting the most attention. And I'd
say Golich is right up there with it. I just haven't been able to get farther in confirming.
Right. We're trying,
Golich has advanced.
You know, there's an interesting thing at play possibly with him and USF because it appears that they're not getting any of their top candidates. So they might be going further down their list. But the Sean Lewis stuff, and I get a lot of it. Record is brought up a bunch. You know, he hasn't won the MAC. He's not winning enough in the MAC. And so I'll play devil's advocate and I'll use another person as a candidate. Gino. If you're going to say Sean Lewis hasn't won enough,
right?
If you're pushing Gino, what are your big positives about him to be a head coach? Obviously I know he went to UC. He was a great player at UC. He would probably do well in keeping a current recruiting class together. I have opinions on whether that's an important thing to do in making a coaching hire or not.
I want to hear those opinions in a minute.
But if you're I guess my biggest thing, you have no idea of an assistant coach has any idea how to run a full program.
Right.
I mean, people didn't seem to love the way the offense was this year. So are we talking about his offensive acumen and the great play calling and the high-powered scoring unit?
Thank you, Tonk. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Tonk. Happy belated birthday, by the way. I'm just trying to I'm looking at all of these things pragmatically, and when I see one thing and then I'm like, well, let's just do this. I'm like, well, okay, why? If you're going down the checklist of things that you're looking for in a head coach, there has to be more to it than went to school here, can keep a current recruiting class together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I wouldn't want him to be the head coach. I said earlier, it honestly doesn't really matter to me. But the whole back and forth of this guy's terrible, this guy's awful, this guy's great. I need more. I need you to be able to articulate why this candidate would be so much better than this candidate.
Right.
Daniel, that's not true. Golish does call plays.
He also helped design the offense, right?
I mean, I don't know if Daniel's new, doesn't have any idea who I am. Everybody's podcast is their first podcast. I know what the hell's going on at Tennessee.
Right.
I mean, if we have any sources anywhere outside of the ones Chad has, it's Tennessee. So
Daniel, you're going to end up in timeout. If all you're here to do is spew just how many times can I say the same thing? Sorry, man. You're in timeout. Come back in 5. Go take a walk and come back in 5 minutes. There's no bigger Tennessee fan than Dave. I mean, I'm sure there is, but
believe me, there are.
but you know what's going on.
Yeah.
There. Nobody has said that Lewis is the top pick, right?
No.
He's a candidate. I think he's a good chance that Lewis is going to be a finalist. That's what my info tells me. So that's what I'm reporting. That's the other thing that I want to touch on here, Dave. Everybody has asked me who do you think is going to get the job? You guys got to understand when I go into this mode, other than joking around about Dion because it's going to be great or it could be great for content, whatever. I don't care. My job is just to be as close to right as humanly possible. Right? That's
right.
The job.
And I think my job is, people ask me on the board, what do I think of someone? And my job isn't to give my opinion about them at this point. I'll have an opinion.
Gather information.
I'll have an opinion based on who they hire once
Sure.
they hire someone.
Right.
But I understand that not everybody watches and is in college football, the whole hog, so to speak, as much as I am. So when someone asks me, what is, like, anybody could do a Google search and see what Sean Lewis or Mo Lindquist's record is. Like, it's very easy to count. But when someone says, like, okay, sell me on this guy, I'm like, well, I'm not here to sell you on him. I'll tell you why I think they might be a candidate.
Right.
And give you reasons why I think John Cunningham or whoever might be interested in them. But I'm not here to, like, say you should like this person or you should want this person and no, this person would be terrible. Like, I have an internal list of all of these guys and I have them ranked how I hope it plays out. But, you're the info gatherer, you're the source guy. I'm the, like, knows who the hell Sean Lewis and Mo Lindquist are before they show up on Hotboard.
Right. And this is why we work good as a team on this stuff when this stuff happens. Look, and I think there's a sentiment in that building that they want to go offense into the Big 12. And I don't think that's a terrible belief. Do you?
No, I think you need to be offensive centric in general in college football right now. I think it's great to have a great defense, but even the premier teams, Georgia is known for their defense, and everybody still gives Stetson Bennett shit for, like, not being a great. Their offense is awesome.
Yeah.
Michigan's offense the last 2 years when Harbaugh. I mean, we might not like him. People don't like him. He took a pay cut and totally revamped the whole program after the COVID year, and their offense is great. Ohio State's offense has been great. Their defense is better. Obviously, has a Michigan issue, but, like, USC offense, the defense is not good. They are insane. Like, maybe the most insane defense I've ever seen from a turnover standpoint, but, like, the defense isn't good. The offense is great, and they're going to probably make the playoff as long as they win tomorrow night. So,
Michael Beers.
Yes.
I can tell you categorically this is wrong. John Cunningham is not giving out information on this search to anyone. It is me versus, like, look, I say this jokingly because I have a great relationship with John, and he was actually scheduled to be on this podcast tonight. He was going to come on. How good of a relationship do I have with John Cunningham? He was going to come on last Wednesday from Maui after the Louisville game. And Dave and I both decided, look, we didn't want to, like, burden him with that, to have to go sit in some, like, conference room in Maui while everybody's going out to dinner. It was 9:00 at night here, so it was like 4:00 there. Like, as everybody's getting ready to have their downtime in Maui, we didn't want to burden him with that. He was, and the plan was we were going to have him on this week. That obviously changed. But when we go into coaching search mode, John Cunningham is the enemy. Right? Like,
yes.
He's trying to keep the information from us, and we are trying to get it.
I actually thought Jeff's question here is interesting because I would like to lay on it.
I want to get to one more thing first.
Oh, okay.
UCF superfan, I think you're on. I think you're right in some areas there, but I also think, like, being risk averse is not always a bad thing. Like, maybe it's a good thing to not have a giant asshole running your program, or a guy that has NCAA violations on his track record. Like, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, to make sure you're getting someone, the right guy, to lead your program into the Big 12. Now go ahead. You can do your thing, Dave.
Jeff asked, not pretending to be an expert, on Sean Lewis. But ask yourself this: would he be on anywhere on Purdue or a lesser Big Ten school's hot board? If the answer to that question is no, then YUC. I will go out on a limb and say that if Indiana, Purdue, Minnesota, probably not Iowa, but maybe he definitely was a candidate
Dave,
at some point
for
Wisconsin.
No, he was number 3 on Wisconsin's hot board at one point.
Illinois. So that's what, 4 or 5? I feel pretty confident in saying that he would definitely be in the mix at least at the beginning. Now, who knows where that goes because I don't know who the other candidates would be. I mean, he's probably not in the running at Maryland, Rutgers, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, Nebraska, Northwestern. Everywhere else, I would say he would have definitely more than likely been a viable option if all those jobs were open right now.
Chris Reed, crazy question. Does this job scare people away because of perceived growing pains as opposed to easy 10-win resume building seasons in the American? I think there's if you're considering this job right now going into the Big 12, yeah, there's concerns, right?
I don't know if it scares people away, but there's going to be a transition.
Yeah.
There's a transition no matter what when you have a new coach. Right. No matter what. There's people forget very quickly how, it obviously didn't happen the same way because they fired Tuberville, but we didn't you don't know who's going to leave, who's going to stay. You have to get in there, and as Luke has said, have blind faith, and that's just how these things work. And I do think that maybe in the coaching world, there is a little more trepidation about this transition than in the fan base world. We look at it as, hell yeah, we're not in the AAC anymore, and hell yeah, we've got the program is now going to have this much more money versus what they used to have, where the coaches look at it and go, okay, we now have to move into a new conference against teams that have had resources far above us for a long, long time. And,
and we have to build up and we have to learn everything about the conference. Daniel, this is the silliness. Cunningham needs to stop thinking about Cunningham and start thinking about the football team. Let me ask you this, Daniel. If John Cunningham doesn't get this hire right, you know what John Cunningham is? The former athletic director at Cincinnati. Right? That's what gets ADs fired, right, Dave? Bad coaching hires.
Yes, in all actuality, this is a job, because if, he already had it he got his basketball coach with Wes. We'll see how that goes. And now you have this job. If you make this hire and you go into the Big 12, and by year 4, you are not having a good run of it, you're going to need to hire a new coach.
Right.
And is John going to be able to, usually you don't get to hire 2 football coaches. So, it's a big hire. It's not, it's certainly not, we're not putting.
I don't know why this job wouldn't be appealing. We literally helped a guy win a more lucrative job in the U.S. Senate. Thank you for lightening things up, UCF superfan. I know you've been borderline unhinged this week. So why is Sean Lewis being linked? Maybe John Cunningham thinks Sean Lewis is a good coach. You don't. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can have a difference of opinion, but guess what? If it happens to be Sean Lewis and Sean Lewis gets hired, We'll find out on the field. And if he's a bad hire, John Cunningham's job will be on the line. Like,
oh no, where did it go? They're coming in too fast.
I know. If you guys want to make sure your question gets asked, the only way I can make sure your question gets asked is to donate.
Jeffrey says, out of all the candidates from the MAC, the Toledo coach, I think, I look at it differently. I think that Jason Candle has been an underachiever because Toledo has way more money than anybody in the MAC, always has the best recruiting class, and he's playing for another MAC championship this weekend, but he's won one MAC title since he's been there. Like, the MAC is just such a dollars and cents league. Like, some people don't realize this. I put this on the board the other day, but you obviously can't keep up with everything that's on the board. Sean Lewis makes $440,000 a year. So that gives you an idea of what his assistants make and what their overall budget is. So, not everything is created equal. Just like we've always, like, UC fans are like, look how great we're doing, with the disadvantages that we have. And, we've done well and we're behind the 8 ball compared to the teams that we're competing with. Places like Kent and Akron, and I would throw like Eastern Michigan, Northern Illinois into those. Like, they're significantly behind in their own league. So it's hard to win consistently in those conferences. It just is. Like, you try to, you try to do it with development, and that's the thing with some of these MAC guys is they have to be incredible identifiers of talent. Because anybody good that you offer, you're probably either not getting, or somebody is gonna they're gonna blow up in high school, and then you have no chance of getting them anyway. So it's an identification of talent. To me, it's how do you compete against your bye games? Like, are you just getting flat destroyed, or are you competitive until the talent on the field just takes over and there's nothing you can do about it?
Right.
Like, Kent State this year went at Washington, at Oklahoma, at Georgia. So, how do you do in those games? They did pretty well, actually, in those games until Georgia they were down 13 at halftime to Georgia. They were down 7-3 at halftime to Oklahoma. So that's an idea of, like, that tells me that you're able to prepare your team, and that the fact that you're going up against a team that should destroy you, your players aren't afraid of it. The game plan is good to keep you in the game, as long as possible. You're never going to win the game. The game's not even ever going to be close. But, like, to show that you have a good game plan and that you can take advantage of things against those teams is things that I look at on that type of a level.
Right. Trying to confirm something right now.
Where did the Al Golden rumor come from? That wasn't a rumor.
Wasn't a rumor. There was interest from what
some names aren't meant for the hot board.
Right. That one, we got wind of it. That was something that Justin had before me, so I let Justin roll with that because it was his name. He had done the legwork on it. But that one was it flamed out like pretty quickly. Like it burned bright like Monday, and then by Tuesday the flame was extinguished. So by the time,
rightfully so. Like, okay, you want me to come on the board and actually give an opinion on the coach right now? I'd have had an opinion on that one.
So basically, that came about after I had done version 1. And by the time I had done version 2, I was told that no longer in consideration. So there's a blind spot there where he didn't make it on version 1. If I'd have done version 2 6 hours earlier, he would have been on it. But by the time I was ready to publish version 2, he was no longer consideration. I do have some breaking news for you, Dave.
What is that?
I am told from a source Mo Linguist got a Zoom call, but is not a finalist for the job.
All right.
So remove Mo Linguist from the board, not a finalist.
Got it.
Breaking news live on the pod.
He was, further down my list. There were some reasons that made sense, but to me, more reasons that I would have liked other candidates more. So, what was that? There was something I wanted to. Oh, let's talk I have a call coming in from Knoxville, Tennessee right now. I wonder if it's Alex Golish.
Do you need to take it?
No, because I think it's my fraternity begging for money. The Brian Hartline stuff. Let's talk about that since he sent out a tweet today saying how he loves Ohio State, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think there was a conversation. I think
he had a Zoom call. I can confirm that.
My guess is twofold. It was going to be very hard to pull him away from Ohio State in general. And I think on the UC side, outside of the recruiting element, I would have been willing to be all for it. But I'm not the one whose job is on the line. I'm not really gung-ho about giving a just over 30-year-old whose highest level of coaching is wide receiver, pass game coordinator, the keys to the car as we transition into a new conference.
Right.
So while I would have loved it because of the recruiting, and I would have been like, okay, can you surround yourself with some good coordinators that have some experience? Then, it probably would have grown on me, and hopefully it would have worked out. But I can definitely see why maybe they, wanted someone with a little more experience operating and running their own program.
I have a question. How much do you think something like, especially given what we know about John Cunningham, doing your Zoom interview and then telling everybody about it and trying to promote yourself as a candidate can potentially hurt you in a situation like this where they're like, it's not exactly the type of discretion we were looking for in a coaching search we're trying to keep in-house.
Yeah, I don't know. I think to me, that's something that there's no reason to put out a statement like that.
Well, he didn't. Well, but he had to put out a statement because he called 8 people and told him he was in the running for the UC job, and then the next day he gets word that he didn't make the cut. So now you got to circle back and let everybody know I'm Ohio State, man. I don't know what all that shit was yesterday. I didn't have anything to do with that. That didn't come from me. My name's Paul, and that's between y'all. But I'm sticking at Ohio State, even though what happened was, I know John Cunningham didn't leak that Brian Hartline was a candidate, right? Brian Hartline leaked that.
No, John Cunningham's not talking to anybody.
Right. So, yes, Brian Hartline leaked that and made it look like maybe he thought he had a better chance than he did. Maybe he thought he nailed the Zoom call. And but my point is, when you're dealing with somebody, you can't do that. Go and run and tell Football Scoop and, the Buckeye, Ohio State sites and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then expect John Cunningham to be like, well, this is a guy that's going to, play in the sandbox. No, he's running around outside the sandbox, kicking dirt inside the sandbox. I don't know. It's just that. It's always dumb to me, when you see that stuff break, if the AD doesn't want it public, you should probably just shut the hell up and hope he calls you back tomorrow. And what's he thinking there? Is he thinking if I can show there's public support, like I become more of a candidate.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like you're doing a leverage play.
Right.
That's my thing with like the Alex Golish stuff. Like it was reported on Football Scoop. And I've had some other conversations with people in Knoxville about it. Like it's his name getting out there is obviously coming from his side, but it's not like he's trying to leverage Tennessee into giving him a better contract. Like I'm sure he'll get a raise because they had a really good year, but like this isn't like this isn't the classic James Franklin gets a contract extension thanks to X university showing some interest in him.
Yeah.
So hello Ed, and I saw you as well, Jeff. Hello. Oh, Alexander, I don't want Tom Allen's adopted son. I want his real son who's not good at football.
The one they don't invite to Thanksgiving.
No, but I think we're talking 48 hours.
Maybe I did think of something that's probably gonna throw a monkey wrench in the original timeline.
What's that?
Bengals Chiefs.
Yeah, you probably don't want to bury it in the afternoon of that game.
And you have a basketball game at noon and a women's basketball game, I think, at 3. So there's gonna be a lot going on there. So
I'm talking about like it starts to leak out.
If it starts to leak out, I guess it would be Sunday night and then Monday press conference.
Like not press conference, like Saturday for like a leak.
I don't think so.
No.
Maybe it gets out Saturday because generally what happens, like let's say interviews go through Saturday, you make a pick, then you have to start negotiating a contract and see.
Well, if it's one of the MAC guys, that negotiation is not going to be hard to do.
Sure. Sure. Or if it's one of the assistants, it's still not.
Yeah, it's still not going to be hard to do.
But it still takes time. Like lawyering takes time, Dave.
Oh, I know.
Maybe Saturday night. I would guess Sunday evening. Or you get it out Sunday morning, 10, 11 o'clock. That way it's the buzz at the basketball game. Everybody's talking about it. And it's kind of the pregame news before Bengals Chiefs. And then you go the press conference on Monday.
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, the players are like, you see a lot of like the Gino and the player stuff. The players are always going to do that.
They always want the in-house choice. And you have to be careful with that. Like, that's a emotional reaction a lot of times. And if that's your best candidate, then absolutely. But you don't listen. Like, I mean, I hate to be this crass and blunt about it, but like, you don't listen to what the players want. It's not how it works. Factual.
Ray just asked about Jamie Chadwell. It sounds like Jamie Chadwell is going to go to Liberty over USF, which is possibly why USF is now showing some interest in Alex Golish.
So you're telling me the Dion to USF stuff was bullshit too?
I think Dion is going to Colorado, which is an interesting choice, but it probably has to do with money and P5. And if he can turn that around, because they are terrible, if they can turn that around in a couple years, then he is well on his way to someone, giving him, a big old fat Power 5, contract.
The thing with him, and I think we talked about this on the boards. I don't know if we talked about it on here. He had some issues at Charleston, right? Is that where he was?
You're talking about Jamie Chadwell?
Yeah.
You've said that. I do not know that one way or the other.
They had like their 2014 and 15 season wins vacated. So
I just think his demeanor, his persona, everything kind of rubbed people the wrong way for a little while.
Charleston Southern. That's Charleston Southern.
And he is, he has cleaned up in that regard. But if you're going from Coastal to Liberty, you're clearly, not blackballed, but he's going to have to keep proving it for a while before he gets a big-time gig.
They had to vacate 18 wins from the 14 and 15 season, including the Big South Championship, vacated wins in other sports. It sounds like there was a found to have incorrectly certified 55 student athletes across 12 sports. So they were playing ineligible players.
So that seems almost like an athletic department thing more than a Jamie Chadwell thing.
But if you're the head coach and, your team vacates 18 wins, yeah. I think Neville Pinto is going to be like.
Well, and I also just think I don't know. He's a good coach. I think he's a good football coach. I like his offense. But if I'm building a program for UC in Ohio, moving to the Big 12, I'm not sure what Jamie Chadwell does for that.
Right.
We listen to if John Cunningham is going to stay true to what he said on his press conference, or in his press conference, he talked Big 12, some experience in that footprint. He talked Ohio recruiting. He talked NIL. He talked. Those are kind of the main three, right? Or did he? He didn't say he said he's looking for the best coach possible because everybody's always looking for the best coach possible. But I, from the jump, never thought he would truly hiring a guy that's not been a head coach to make this transition.
Yeah.
Jeffrey brings up Gary Patterson if they want. Yeah. Gary Patterson if they want knowing the Big 12, not Gary Patterson if you have any interest in player rights or NIL. That's part of the reason he got moved out at TCU was he's stuck in 1985.
Here you go. Here's a list of splash hires from comparable programs the last few years. Texas, Sark. Michigan State, Mel Tucker.
We're comparing UC and Texas?
No. Just people want splash hires. Splash. We're talking about programs that have made splash hires.
Oh, okay.
Michigan State, Mel Tucker.
Okay, yeah, that one's working out super well right now.
Nebraska, Scott Frost.
Fired.
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin's he's an interesting dude.
Mike Leach.
They've
been okay.
They've been fine,
Florida State, Mike Norvell.
He was on the hot seat until this year. If they didn't do what they did this year, he was getting fired.
Brian Harsin, Auburn.
Fired.
Dana Holgerson, Houston.
Well, if his best friend wasn't Tillman Fertitta, he'd be fired too.
Greg Schiano, Rutgers. These are splash hires. You want it? People want splash, right?
I don't know if
the Bearcat Journal message board never disappoints. I have to give credit to Just Breezy for that on the message board.
Just Breezy. Remember when all the UT fans got shit on for getting Greg Schiano to not have that job?
At the time, they were splash hires. At the time, that was that school going out and getting the top of their list.
A name.
I need a name. Give me a name.
This is funny to me, but not this one because it moved too fast. Matt, what are the chances the people who hate Sean Lewis have actually watched Kent play? I would say 0 to 5%.
There's 231 people here, Dave. How many of them do you think have watched a Kent State game?
Do I count?
Yeah, we'll let you count.
Maybe 10. Flash
I think it's
fast.
less.
That's
I think
right.
it's less than that.
Flash fast.
It's like people are trying to get blocked in my Twitter mentions. My God.
Well,
Ooh.
UCF superfan, I hate to tell you, he hasn't lost more than he's won.
He's lost to Georgia, like in Oregon. Like he's lost those games. Yeah, he's won more than he's lost in the MAC.
They beat
Stonewall says,
Stonewall. That was a win. They beat the team that's in the MAC championship. Like, I'm not stumping for the guy, but it's like he went 1-10 his first year because the 5 years before he was there, they won a total of 9 MAC games.
any concern about the staff, Lewis? Why?
That would definitely be one of my concerns.
Okay.
Like, one, I would hope you don't let him just bring whoever he wants. And two, do you have the quote unquote Rolodex to get guys who you've worked with before, or that all these coaches, they always have this like list of like, if I ever become a head coach at this program, I want you to come coach with me. Like, I know you're not going to come coach with me at Kent State, but if I get a job here, I'd love you to come coach with me. Like, that's one thing that I would have a question about. Like, you're going from a budget, probably an entire coaching budget of around $1 million, if I had to guess, to now your head coach is probably going to be making $4 to $5 million.
3.5.
So, but like, we're not just giving all of the assistants, 20x times raises. Like, who else do you know? Who else can you bring in? Yeah, what he did put up 3 points against a pretty bad Oklahoma defense, and in the first half, Oklahoma scored 7, and then they ran away with it because they have way better players.
Right.
Like, but again, these are like counting things. Like, avid gambler, Kent State overs are awesome.
That's one of the 10. That's one of the 10.
There was a couple in there. Someone said.
I know.
Someone said that
One of their kids like Maction.
My 9-year-old likes Maction.
Shut up, Ed. I'll repeat that.
Like,
Shut up, Ed.
for instance, like if you like Mo Linguist, to me, obviously we've talked about that he's probably, you said he's not getting another interview.
That's what my source told me.
One of the things that I did like about him was that he has coached a lot of places for being young. So he would probably have a good pool of people to pull from for assistant coaches.
Don't look now, Reed, but UC almost lost to Miami freaking Ohio this year. Just saying. Perfect at linebacker, coach.
I'm down with that. But I mean, we'll see. I think head coaching experience is going to win out eventually. So we'll see what that means. I think John will look at just how many boxes can this person check. And the biggest unchecked box is like, can you run a program? Have you been in charge of 100 and something people? Have you had to make? Someone brought this up in the board, and I've heard it too, like on the radio and podcasts and stuff. Was like, have you ever had to make the 1,000 little decisions every day that go into being a head coach? And I'm not sold that he's going to want a person learning all of that while also transitioning to a league that, as we saw this year, was pretty damn good, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Like West Virginia,
Not dominant, but
West Virginia was the worst team, and like they weren't terrible. Where like every other league's worst team is garbage. Yes, if Gino does not get the head coaching job, he is going to Wisconsin.
Maybe.
I mean, that would make the most. He's not staying here to be the offensive coordinator. I could tell you that.
I think there are other offensive coordinator opportunities.
Right.
That would be available to him. Would he most likely go to Wisconsin? Yes. Does he have other interest outside of UC head coach and Wisconsin offensive coordinator? Also, yes. I can't tell you who, but I can tell you there is definitely other interest. So, yeah.
Sorry, dealing with the unruly child.
How's that going?
Well, it's going all right for me. I'm not the one having to deal with him right now, but
we got 25 people on Twitch right now, Dave.
I don't even know what that means.
That means there's 25 people watching us on Twitch.
Well, what is Twitch?
Twitch is what the video gamers use to stream video games. We stream this podcast on the
so
Twitch
like do they not just play like on like consoles anymore?
Holy boomer.
No. They play video games, they broadcast them on Twitch, and people watch them.
Oh, okay.
But they also do like they host like podcasts and shows.
Sounds thrilling.
Dave is old, confirmed.
Hey, I am very fine with that. I am very fine with that.
UCF superfan watches us on Twitch. Oh no, it's Papa Bear watches us on Twitch. M. Schultz watches us on Twitch. I know Lambig, wherever he is, watches us on Twitch.
I'm cool with being coach? I'm cool with being old.
Can we get Coach O? What do you think, Dave? You down with Coach O?
I'm sure we could. I don't think he's doing a whole lot right now. But that might get in the way of the stuff that he is doing.
Yeah. Nothing good. Nothing good. Oh, boy. All right. What else you want to talk about?
I don't know.
I think we've hit on this a bunch. I don't know if there's anything left really to say on any of this, unless you have more to say.
No, I don't think so. I think, just see how it plays out. We always
there are that UCF superfan. That's another thing, Dave. There's hot chicks that sit in bikinis in like hot tubs or like those floaty pools.
Yeah.
They put them in their bedroom. That you buy one of those pools for Will, the little ones. They put them in their bedroom. They put water in them, and they just sit in there in a bikini.
They just sit there. That's it.
Yeah, and talk to the Twitch chat.
What do they talk about?
Whatever the Twitch chat wants to talk about.
Man, I thought I was weird for being into the NFL draft.
Yeah, there's chicks that do that for a living. That's their job.
Yeah, interesting.
I do have like something on the rumor front. I've heard a little buzz from a couple people leaning towards the Military Bowl.
That makes sense.
Which would be an ACC opponent.
Right.
They haven't been there in what, 4 years?
I think you'd be looking at, from what I've seen, maybe Pitt or Louisville.
Yeah. I've heard NC State might be a possibility.
I just want to put, like, most people know my take on the whole non-big bowl. Like, I don't really care. It's about the players and the coaches and a reward for them. But, like, I would like to play a team that's better than 6-6. Because all the bowl games we've gone to outside of the Peach Bowl and the playoff, they've played 6-6 teams.
I might take 6-6 next year, Dave.
Yeah.
Schultz, if they play in the Liberty Bowl, there is zero chance I am agreeing to walk with you anywhere, you son of a bitch. Dave, it was the AAC basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Schultz lives in Memphis.
Yes.
And we were, at the arena, and he's like, come meet me at this bar. It's right up the street. Me and my dad walked for 20 minutes to get to the bar. And then he's like, let's go to this other bar. It's like right down here. There's another 15-minute walk to get to that bar. By the end of the night, we were all the way so far down the street that the street ended. Like they had placed a concrete, like one of those
so you can't
highway
drive there.
things. And they just placed it in the middle of the road. Like, you cannot go any farther than here, turn around, and walk the hour back from whence you came.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Jeffrey asked a recruiting question that I want to get to. It says, how important is it really to keep the 23 class intact? There's kind of two ways I look at this. It is important to keep it intact. I mean, you don't want to lose recruits that you think can help you win games. But you also, during a coaching change, you don't want to chase just to fill spots either.
Right.
And if that means that when all is said and done, that this class ends up with like 15 high school kids in it, 13 high school kids in it, then that's where it needs to be. Like, you see a lot of times coaches feel like they can't not have like a normal class, and it ends up biting them because they take kids that they shouldn't have taken. And I think like Billy Napier at Florida came out right away when he got that job and was like, this is going to be a slow build. I'm not going to just take anybody. This is Florida. Like, just because I'm new and just because we have the spots doesn't mean that I'm going to fill them all.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right way to do it. Now, the portal makes it a little bit different. Because
if you've only got 67 guys, you're going to have to do something a little different.
Yes. But, I think from a recruiting standpoint, like, emotions are high. They're kids, man. Their whole world's been turned upside down. Like, they came here to play for a group of people, and that group of people is leaving. Like, I don't blame any kid for reevaluating his options. Like, he has not even the fact of like he didn't come here to play for X coach. Like, he has no idea who that person's even going to be.
Yeah.
So, if you have the ability to see what else is available, I would be I'm all for that. Like, it just makes too much sense. Now, it's on the new coaching staff to try to keep as many of the kids that they feel are, at this level that fits what they're trying to do. And that's the other thing too, is like some players they might look at and go, yeah, this guy was great for the old staff, but like we don't run the defense this way, or we don't look for that kind of wide receiver in this offense. And that stuff, you certainly don't want those guys on your team if they're not going to fit in what you're doing.
Right. You have to go through each guy and make sure like this is a guy that is is the type of guy that we recruit. Because if not, then you're just taking a guy to take a guy that's going to be in the transfer portal in a year.
Right. And if you're already going to be making this transition, and you're automatically going to lose some guys from transferring out and the recruits that don't commit or don't stick with you. So you're already going to be low in your numbers.
Right.
While you're making the transition, taking a bunch of freshmen that you wouldn't have taken, previously, and they're now stuck on your roster for at least a year, that certainly isn't helping you. So you just keep those spots open. You use them in the transfer window that will open back up again in April. You use them for February recruiting. Maybe you find some guys that didn't sign, or whatever the case may be. But like December 21st, I'm really not looking to see like a bunch of new dudes come into this class, because that tells me that you're reaching a little bit.
Yeah, it's late. It's late.
If
you're gonna go wipe out somebody that changed coaches, like you're gonna go get their entire recruiting class. I don't think so.
If it is Sean Lewis, I mean, there's a kid that is committed there that we offered at the beginning of January or beginning of November, that you could possibly see flipping. If it is Sean Lewis, there's 2 wide receivers that I would love to have on this roster that maybe decide to transfer. So, that's the thing with the transfer.
You were looking at those 2 wide receivers before Sean Lewis's name was, before Luke Fickell was a thing.
But one of them for sure, Dante Cephas, absolutely was definitely thought he was someone that was going to go into the portal. But that's the thing with the transfer portal. It's like, because it's free reign now, theoretically, Sean Lewis could take, just like Deion's talked about, people talked about with Deion, wherever Deion goes, all these guys are coming. Like, Sean Lewis could take all of Kent State's best players. I mean, they got 2 starting wide receivers that would start for UC right now on next year's team.
Right.
So, like, maybe he takes 5 or 6 of their best players, or whoever does. I mean, it doesn't have to be him. Any head coach, you're probably not going to take, if it's an assistant, they're not going to take many guys. So, yeah, what Troy says. Oh, I'm sure he's recruited they've recruited a lot of the same guys that UC has recruited. Now, they couldn't get them because they were at Kent State.
Right.
But all those guys have other big offers as well. So it's going to be hard. It would be hard to get them back anyway, because they committed to coaches that aren't here anymore. So their relationship has been being built even after they've committed. Like, their relationship was built with other Power 5 staffs before they committed to UC. I'm guessing some of their very first offers were from Kent State, which, if that's the case, that tells me that they're good at identifying talent. You're on mute, I think.
For recruits that took OVs earlier this season when Fick was here, are they able to take another to feel out the new coach? I think it has to be an unofficial.
I mean, they have 5 visits, so if they haven't taken.
But I mean, can they? I don't think they.
Oh, you can't take 2 to the same school.
I don't think so.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know if that goes out the window if you've had a coach. Like, I know the transfer portal. Like, if you had a coaching change or you're a grad transfer, there's no window. There's no transfer portal window for those guys. Like, they can come and go as they want.
1 per school. So you only get 1.
Well, then.
Yeah. Hold on. This might.
Jeffrey asked if we think Tyler Scott stays.
It depends on the coach. Like, yeah, I think I'd want to play for Sean Lewis if I was Tyler Scott.
If I'm a wide receiver, sure.
Yeah.
I'd listen to him. If it's Alex Golish, hell yeah. If you're an offensive player and they hire Sean Lewis or Alex Golish, I would definitely listen to what those guys have to say.
I actually think most of these guys visited in June.
So that was their June. That
would be their junior official. Yeah.
Junior official.
Yeah. So they would get senior officials where you get 5 more officials, 1 for each school. So maybe they could come back. It's a good question, Stu. I'll have to look into it more. All right, you want to do some? You want to do a little basketball? I think we've got an hour and 50. I think we've hit just about everything we could possibly hit tonight.
Let's see what the
Lighter says, I'm a saint for dealing with the people complaining about the hot list.
You're never a saint.
No, it's anything religious at me.
Dicey. Only 12,700 views on Hotboard 3.0 right now.
That's disappointing. Come on, people. What are we doing? That thing's been up for 2 hours. Hour and a half at least.
Get it together.
My goodness.
Get it together.
So I guess the Fenway Bowl people might be right. I'm getting some kickback that it is Fenway versus Louisville, and it sounds like you are correct.
That's disgusting.
You don't want to go to Boston?
I'm not going anywhere. I don't want them to have to go there.
Boston and Jane, when it's December 29th. No, that's not. No, that's the Pinstripe Bowl. It's December 29th. That can't be right.
What?
December 17th? That can't be right. Seriously? Maybe just get it over with.
No, it's December 29th. No, okay. Wait. It says I'm seeing 2 different things.
The one that said December 29th, that's the Pinstripe Bowl.
Hold on.
The Wasabi Fenway Bowl. I'm looking at their official Twitter account. December 17th, 2022, 11 a.m.
That's disgusting. That shouldn't even be allowed.
Yeah, they're tweeting out bowl predictions from November 23rd. 1 month away views from November 17th.
Their bowl was the 29th last year.
Yeah, this year it is December 17th at 11 a.m.
If that's not a way to leave the AAC, I don't know what is.
My goodness, Dave. They're going to get 8 days to practice. They won't start practice until next week.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's
the 6th,
terrible.
The bowl is going to be 11 days away from the start of bowl practice.
Ugh.
Fake John Goebel, I am looking at their Twitter feed right now. Their Twitter feed for the Wasabi Fenway Bowl says official account of the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, December 17th, 2022, 11 a.m. And they have had pictures up of projections for that bowl every week. Wow. I'd go to Boston, Chelsea. I wouldn't go to Boston for that. Well, it's I could go now, honestly.
In December, It's going to be 4 degrees. No thanks.
Boston, December 17th. You're not in, Aaron?
No.
I'll pick you up on the way.
Sure.
Jerry Palm has Military Bowl against Wake Forest.
I have a source telling me the team was told today Fenway Bowl against Louisville.
That is wretched. Wretched.
Wow.
Oh, well.
Talk about putting a damper on this podcast. This is the worst news of the day. Forget about my hot board.
Yeah.
Do you think being coachless plays a factor into the bowl selection? No, not really. But the Military Bowl is too high and mighty for Cincinnati without a head coach? No, I think we're gonna pass. I think we're gonna take
ECU.
Yeah, we're going Holden Ayler's swan song, Liberty Bowl.
They were supposed to play in the Military Bowl last year, and Boston College canceled on them, I think.
Because Boston College just hates bowl games. How much to send Aaron to Boston, Chad? Ooh.
Too much.
Yeah, probably too much. Boston's expensive. Oh, man. Bring the keg to the bowl game. Yeah, Louisville, bring the keg. Although, look, what, Kerry Combs is head coach. Like, Droopy might have to be back on a headset. If you get that one, you've been here a while. Oh boy. Yeah.
I feel like the keg of nails being used for the coffin for Cincinnati's football program jokes write themselves at that point.
Okay, John Rothstein. All-time low. All-time doom and gloom. Aaron is back. Miami's going to Nassau. We're going to Boston.
The MAC has better bowls than we do.
All-time low again. Drew, well, are you going to come on to preview the Fenway Bowl for Louisville for us? I know you're very high on this Cardinals team, Drew. You'll be our Louisville insider next week because the game's like it's the following. It's that we'll have one more podcast before the Fenway Bowl.
Two, right?
Two. I'm being.
Yeah, but I know, but I'm sure I'll give a real deep dive into that preview.
Oh, I'm down for that, Dave. You down for this?
What's that?
Search the triple option. At fullback. You've got Prayer, and then you put Corey back there, and you just run the triple option on the cards.
Try to get the game over with as fast as possible.
Yeah, as fast as humanly possible. As fast. You just Ivan Pace, fullback dive all day. Drew's in. All right, brother. All right, let's get some basketball. We have to get out of here by 9 because Rocket Truth is at 9.
All right. Well, I'm sure we have a lot from the NJIT game to discuss.
Did you watch?
I did. Yeah, as much as I could. But yeah, I watched.
Give me your thoughts.
I like what Vic's been doing.
He looks good, man. He looks good. The confidence is growing. Now, NJIT obviously didn't have any size, but like I thought he held his own against Arizona. Ohio State was rough, but he didn't have a terrible game against Ohio State. They just didn't have anybody to compliment him with. He was good against Louisville. Like the guy is starting to figure it out. And he gave the best midweek press conference we've had in ages.
That was funny. I just think he's playing with confidence. He's playing like he seems much more assertive, knows or feels like he knows exactly what he wants to do. And what do you have? 10 and 10? I think. Is that right? Am I right there? Did Chad just disappear on me? All right.
I feel like you totally got the AOL door closed.
Doing the basketball recap of a game I kind of watched while taking care of a child. So I think David DeJulius made a lot of baskets.
He said, "Hey, Dave, let's hurry this up. We got to get this done before 9." And then
Sorry.
They just left. I'm like,
look.
You have me talk for an hour and a half about football, and then you leave me to talk about.
Did you watch it? Cool. I'll be back.
Yeah.
So look. Kelsey had a choir concert tonight. So the Kelly and the in-laws and the grandparents are all here. They're one room away. So I just went in there for a second because I thought you would go for a second to tell them, make sure it wasn't loud. Because I didn't want to pick up their conversation on the podcast. I'm sorry.
I went for an appropriate amount of time.
I wasn't back yet.
I know.
I'm back now. I'm here. Sorry. That's my bad.
So we were talking about Vic.
Yes.
And I said
I
that
think
he's
Vic
playing with confidence. He seems to be more assertive, a better understanding of what he wants to do when he gets the ball. How to set himself up. Set himself up more playing better without the ball. Dave made a bunch of baskets. That's always fun. Had the step back going.
Yeah, I mean, that, even Wes talked about it. It is such a bad shot for 95% of players. But there is that 5% that, they, for whatever reason, probably just, worked on it their whole life. Especially a smaller guy like Dave, right? Where he's probably needed that to create separation because he scores off the dribble. And there's just this small segment of guys that for whatever reason, that step back is in their arsenal. And Dave is one of those guys. I feel better with him taking a step back than I do with him catching a wide open rhythm three.
Yeah.
I'm more confident his step back is going in. Now, it's not that he's terrible shooting spot up rhythm threes.
He was good last night.
Yeah. It's just that he's in his comfort zone, especially when he's feeling it, when the shots are falling. When he gets to that and you see him get that step, it's oh, that's in.
I know they had a pretty substantial size advantage last night, but I thought they attacked the glass
40 to 22 edge on the glass
much better than they have been. I mean, you can get rebounds just because you're bigger, but they made an effort to try to rebound out of area. It just felt like they were a lot more active, especially on the offensive glass, than they had been recently.
It's not in Davenport's arsenal. No, the step back is not. Landers has it. Landers has got a pretty good one. JD, that's not. I don't recommend that from JD all that often. The problem is when you got a guy on your team that can shoot the step back, all of a sudden everybody on the team's oh, step back. I got one of those. Clang, clang, clang. I do want to give a credence to something else that Wes talked about, and I've talked to coaches about this too. The hangover from Maui is supposed to be a serious, serious deal. Just fly, the jet lag, flying back. Everybody takes 2 days of sleep to really get back to, your clock being normal.
Well, yeah, and you play 3 straight days, and it's not
3 straight days against minus Louisville, high level competition.
Well, and there's no downtime. You're always doing something,
right,
as part of the Maui Invitational. So yeah.
And they played essentially they played a 6 o'clock game in Maui and then came right back with a noon game.
That's fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that second half against Ohio State. I think the tank was just empty. I mean, You ran your ass off against Arizona.
Yeah.
and then you had to come back like 15 hours later and play a physical Ohio State team. Not great. What's up with Jeremiah? Just not shooting it well. Not shooting it well. And he's taking better shots, I think. Maybe he's a guy that has to take bad shots. Maybe that's his thing, Dave. 27 feet with a hand in his face, bang. 23 feet, wide open, rhythm. Nope, that's not going down. Lambig said he's more honest than previous. I think a lot of that's just depending on the questions. And that was me that was questioning what he wants the team to be, because it's been something we've talked about. Like, you know, it's me asking the hard questions, Lambig.
Well, you can keep your job now that you asked a hard question. We'll wait till they introduce a new football coach. We'll see how hard the questions are then.
They won't be hard at all. Introductory press conference, I will be asking 0 difficult questions, Dave.
Please ask what kind of defense you run, just so I can hear him say multiple.
We want to be multiple.
Aggressive, multiple. It's just like I'm still waiting for the first coach when you have the first press conference of the new season and it's how did summer go? I'm waiting for the new coach to be like, man, our guys slacked off the entire time. They're fat, out of shape, slow.
These slapdicks are terrible.
Like everyone is like, oh man, we crushed it. We're faster, bigger, stronger. We really brought a great mentality to the offseason. It's like, no, not every team could do that because, half these teams stink. So what you're saying is a lie.
When in reality, that's my favorite part. They're also behind the scenes going, we suck.
Oh, yeah. We're right away.
Terrible. We're going to be terrible.
Richard, thank you for the donation. Richard says, all I want for Christmas is primetime hired in the basketball team to make the NIT at least for this season. I'm putting up praying hands. One of those things might happen.
I don't think it's the one that you want more.
Probably not.
Any news on the back? I would guess you're talking basketball. It's in season. So you've got Ray and Jizzle. They're looking at, a couple big men, but the hard part there, Bill, is teams are just getting started with their high school season. And they're also going through like holiday tournaments and, trying to get ready for ramping up. So you're not going to see a bunch of recruiting stuff early in the season. There will be guys that will come on late that, once you get to February, March, maybe you see some steam picking up on a couple under the radar guys. But if we're going to be honest, I think we're going to see a bunch of the transfer portal. Because this team, depending on what happens, Bill, this team's a really old team right now. They're going to get real young, real fast going into the Big 12 if you recruit any more high school kids. You got 4 super seniors and 4 seniors. And if none of them come back, you got 3 freshmen, but Jared Hensley, Victor Locken, Jizzle James, and Rayvon Griffith. You're going to need some experience, Dave.
Yeah.
Experience. What was the announcement that got moved back a few weeks ago? It was a sponsorship deal. Not an apparel deal. It was announcing a new sponsor that was coming to UC. I don't know why can't understand why, but that's not something I've checked on recently.
Yeah.
And a couple of other things going on. But I'll circle back to that Bearcat 12. I'm not sure. What's the payout for the Fenway Bowl?
I just looked it up. It's unannounced. There are several that are not
Don't disclose.
actively listing the payouts.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
there
like
you
some
go.
of these aren't even enough to like. You're like losing a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Arizona Bowl, the Barstool Sports Streaming Bowl, 350 grand.
Right.
The Camellia Bowl, 300 grand. Like you're losing money. That's another one of the huge differences in going to the Big 12. Like,
Oh, the bowl games are. Whew.
I mean, just for an example, the Alamo Bowl. Like it's a nice bowl game, Big 12, Pac-12, but it'll have good teams, but not like the premier teams from each league. $8.2 million.
That's a lot.
Cheez-It Bowl, ACC Big 12, $6 million. Texas Bowl, Big 12 SEC, $6.4 million. Liberty Bowl is like one of the lower bowls for the Big 12, $4.7 million. Like you look at the American, Birmingham's 1.3, the Texas Bowl 800,000, Gasparilla 1.1, Independence 2.2, Fenway's unannounced, Cure Bowl 570,000.
Woof.
Where's the old Gasparilla?
Now,
I think I might have said that 1.1, but like
those all go into a pool. Those don't go to the teams.
right, but I mean just think of
It's
all
bad.
the Big 12 money goes into a
Right.
pool.
Right. I'm just for people that are,
Yeah, each team doesn't. I mean, they get that amount to get there, but
yeah.
like the guarantee rate for the Big 12 is 1.6, and that looks like the lowest, one of the lowest ones, and that would be like the top for the AAC.
Get us out of here. Jeez.
Seen a couple questions on Josh Reed. What's going on there? He didn't play last night?
No, he didn't play last night. I think that was a victim of circumstance in that Josh Reed, at least right now, brings you offense, and offense is not really this team's problem. Yes, I know they scored 11 points at NKU in the second half. I know. But this is not an offense. When you're comparing the two, Dave, it is a much more defensively challenged team than an offensively challenged team. So I think last night Jared Hensley got those minutes looking for better defense. Is there a payout dinner for difference for winners and losers? Nope. What's the worst bowl game the Big 12 has a tie to, Dave?
It's
dozens of dollars.
It's hard to say on some of these because some of them are like they have a lot of leagues tied to them where if you don't have a representative that got bowl eligible, then they'll pull it from another. So I guess like the Big 12 could technically go to the Gasparilla Bowl, but so could the ACC, American, Conference USA, MAC Mountain West, Pac-12, or SEC. So everybody with the Big 10 apparently could go to that bowl.
Right.
So, guaranteed rate is a 1.6. That's one of the lowest ones.
Can you imagine if we had a game to deal with tomorrow or Saturday? What this week would have been like?
I hadn't really thought about it. Honestly.
I mean, it cost Willie Fritz Georgia Tech.
I mean, you could have taken the job.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, unless they were like, you have to come now.
they wouldn't. They wouldn't let him wait till Sunday.
Maybe not.
Then they didn't
Maybe
want him
not.
bad enough.
Yeah.
That was always my whole thing with like Luke and Notre Dame last year. Like, if you really wanted him, you thought he was by far the best candidate. You didn't think it was worth waiting a month or a couple weeks or whatever it might have been.
Who's more likely to start next year, Ray or Jizzle? Neither, but I guess you'd have to say Jizzle because there's a scenario where they don't have a point guard. You know, I think they get one. I still think Davion Thomas is a very real possibility. He is at Kilgore Community College in Texas. There's a few places that have him as the number one JUCO in the country. I do think Cincinnati's in a pretty good spot with him. And then if not, then they'll certainly be looking in the transfer portal.
Is Marcus Sykes coach at Kilgore?
No, he is now with
Is he with Eric Martin?
Eric Martin. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Eric Martin hired him to his staff. So
And where is he?
good for Marcus. South Carolina State, I think.
Oh, okay.
They just had an upset. They upset somebody, I believe, for their first win of the season.
I'm not. Granted, I'm still very much in like college football mode, and we're obviously doing a coaching search. But college basketball seems to be insane this start of this year. Is it different than other years? Like, you just see like a ton of movement in the top 25, and I looked the other day and was like really surprised at who was in the top 10. I don't know if I should have been, but it just seems like there's been a crazy amount of movement.
It's the transfer portal. Because especially in basketball, like continuity and familiarity as you get through, it's why have mid-majors always been great in March? Because they have guys that have played together for 3-4 years. So now you have all these teams that have, I mean, turning over half your roster is just what college basketball blows my mind. Like, it used to be like, 3 or 4 new guys, but you still had 9 or 10 veteran guys on your roster. And now it's like 7 returners and 6 new guys on every team every year. Like, that's going to disrupt November bigly, as somebody said earlier. John White.
Is Houston this good?
Yep. They have 2 absolute stud freshmen that are, really, really good, surrounding a veteran roster with Marcus Sasser, who's probably a first team All-American type. And they've got complementary pieces. Like, Kelvin's got that thing rolling, man. They just, that roster is stacked.
I saw Texas was number 2.
That's what it was, fake John Goebel. South Carolina State's first win of the season. East Carolina.
Oh, I like East Carolina's coach. He's a ball.
Is he?
Or he was on Barnes' staff. Like, I think he'll do a good job there.
I met him.
Michael Schwartz, I think?
Yeah, I met him over the summer. Seemed like a good dude.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, big league Willie. Mark, you want to go where? To Boston? So are we still talking about Boston? Yeah, different when you're coming off a Final Four and Elite Eight. The recruiting becomes easier when you make a Final Four and an Elite Eight. You get a 5-star and a high 4-star, and your roster's pretty intact, and you add a couple studs to it.
Kind of like when you have a little better recruiting success when you come off CFP.
Only if your coach stays.
It's true. It's true.
Only if your coach stays. All right, I think my voice is about shot.
Yeah. We'll still have the brunch on Sunday morning before I head out to the Bengals game. We might have a coach to discuss. We talked about before we came on here. If there is some sort of news and we can, we'll break in and do a live show.
I don't have a ton going on other than the basketball game between now and Sunday. So if anything happens between now and then, we will absolutely go live. And as long as I get home from the basketball game, like there's going to be a window from like 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock where I'll be occupied. But anything that happens after 4, I'll be here ready to go. So big weekend. Interviews incoming. We feel good about Sean Lewis getting one. This is me guessing. I would guess Golish gets one. I would guess.
It seems that I think that would be a safe assumption to make. We could definitely be wrong, but that feels like something that is probably, if you look at the candidates and you look at what we've said and who is in, who is out, if you're going to do 3 or 4 interviews, somebody's got to get them. So unless it's multiple guys that we don't know about.
Look, if it's a bad hire, they will not drop it during the basketball game. They will drop it first quarter Bengals Chiefs because nobody's going to be paying attention. Nobody's going to care. Aaron might shoot me. That's a 425 game, right?
Yep.
Aaron might shoot me if we have to go live at 5:30 on Sunday.
I won't be there.
Accurate.
I'm excited for this Bengals game. We got some shit talking going on by the Chiefs.
The one that lives in this room is a Chiefs fan.
The Bengals players are
the one that lives in this room is a Chiefs fan.
The Bengals,
it's a 12-year-old thing.
Players are chirping back at him on Twitter.
Little rivalry brewing.
Yeah, it's not a rivalry until the Chiefs beat them. The Bengals have won 6 out of the last 7 times they've played them.
The last 2 are important. The other ones, not so much.
Hey, they beat them when they were undefeated.
Yeah.
That one year when they had the Peter Wark punt return for a touchdown.
Rock of Truth is coming up in like 9 minutes. So if you want some former player perspective on the coaching change, you can get Jake Sopko, Nick Statterman, Joe Met. Those guys are coming up here at the bottom of the hour, as they say in the radio business. As always, special thanks to our partners at the Holy Grail. They are phenomenal. We love them. We thank them. Go there, support them, and you'll be supporting us. Aaron and I will have a nightcap of some sort later. I don't know.
Sure.
What are you going to talk about?
www.bearcatjournal.com/hotboard 3.0. There's your nightcap.
I don't think that takes you anywhere.
Kill me now.
All right. Well, we can't talk about it there. Then it's free. We'll give a Cliff's Notes. Maybe a Cliff's Notes version. We'll see you next time. It's the BCJ podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.